Oh, it's that time again, guys, for an immersive map tour. Oh yes, and this time my recording setup should be much better, so it should be that extra bit immersive, that extra bit more beautiful. YouTube has enabled 60 FPS, so if you guys really want to get into this, if you watch on Chrome, and for some reason only on Chrome, you can actually go up to 1080p 60 FPS. This should be really awesome. I want to show you guys how we get into the new map, what the new map generally looks like. I'm going to have the audio levels pretty high. I should be talking to you most of the time through the video. Months ago when we did one of the immersive tours, that's what you guys said that you preferred. So we'll do it that way, and as we go, I will talk in broad terms about how this map is everything Ore should once have been. And maybe one day they can actually go back and make Ore something like this. This map is a juicy combination of world versus world with PvE, and it's phenomenal. You're going to be led here through the story into this giant fort, which has always been here since the launch of the game, except it's been locked out. You haven't really been able to travel here as a player until now. It was attacked by Mordrum, supposedly, that were looking for something that the bandits here had. But when the bandits left, whatever they had left with it, and the Mordrum stopped attacking so fiercely, so it's actually not that dangerous coming here. There's a few notes you can read in some of these side passageways. I won't be doing. This is mostly about the maps that you guys can check out and learn a bit about these bandits. A big thing about this map we're headed to, the map known as the SilverWastes, does have a lot of evidence of old people who once lived here and have now moved on, related perhaps to those bandits from that fort. My hunch, at the very least, is that these are White Mantle, but we'll have to see. Let's close down our daily there. Let's close down all of this stuff. So yeah, I guess we can actually leave the meta event on. This is the SilverWastes. This is roughly the size of the map. I would say, despite the fact that it looks very comparable to Drytop, this is about 2/3 the size of Drytop, or maybe even only half the size of Drytop. I think this is a huge placebo effect that is really going to affect people, and they're going to say, well, the SilverWastes is so much bigger. This just feels a lot more open world. There is nowhere near as much verticality as Drytop had. The Drytop had stuff like the caves and so forth. There were multiple layers that made it feel much bigger, much more dense with events, with things to find. The SilverWastes is generally just a bit more open, and that means if you're not participating in the large-scale battle-style stuff in this map, it can feel pretty quick to just walk left to right. That's what we're going to do for now, though. We start off in this camp, Camp Resolve, and it's through this place that the Pact are staging their next attack. This is probably the lowest FPS area that you'll find in the whole map, but there's a very good reason for it. It's because in the sky above us are numerous Pact airships, including, oh look, the Glory of Tyria, right behind us, hanging ominously in the sky. I don't want to talk too much about how good the story is this patch, but this is awesome to see. That is the airship, guys, that we used to destroy Zaitan. And it's looking bigger and badder than it ever did before. There's loads of NPC conversations, dialogue, stuff like that around here. We're going to ignore, I guess for now, many key characters that we've come to know, not just through the living world, but the entirety of Guild Wars 2 will arrange to meet one another here. There's some funny little bits of dialogue about a chef that is criticized and then starts crying when nobody's looking. It's just fantastic. But in terms of gameplay mechanics, this place is really the only place that has a waypoint on the entire map, as you can see, until you progress throughout the map, capturing objectives and upgrading them with supply, just like you would in World vs. World. The whole theme of the map is that we're headed from Camp Resolve and trying to push deep into Mordrum territory, and you need to have the supply lines that are being escorted by players to capture other locations and hold them for long enough to tier them up and really establish a foothold deeper in the map. It's phenomenally well done. There are loads of different mechanics at play here. And I guess we'll just progress through out of one of the gates. There are a couple of different lanes you can go down. Basically, it's either north or south here at the very start. We're going to go down the south. This was the first place I ever explored. The enemies you find on the map are kind of typical to Drytoppy kind of enemies that we were experiencing before. Lots of Mordrum do charge the base and they just get destroyed by cannons, as you can see there. But it's largely quite Drytoppy. Earth elementals, dust mites, and in addition to that, there are a lot of Mordrum forces, including a few new varieties of Mordrum. There are trolls. I think you just saw one of those die. There are little mini ones called Menders that emit these blue glows and heal the enemies up. There's another new variety that seemed particularly good at taking down walls and so forth. That was a Drake that just managed to clip me there. And overall, it's kind of a passive map, kind of an easy map to just walk through. If you're not actually participating in the events, you know, saving supply caravans, assaulting objectives, you're going to be all right when it comes to getting chased down. Like, Mordrum won't really attack you otherwise. As you can see, we're coming on one of our first locations here. This is surrounded by a green fog. This means that the Mordrum do own it. Now, the thing is, the longer you hold objectives for on this map, the harder they are to defend, because slowly your walls start breaking, the fences start breaking down, you lose allies, and unless people are running more supply and you're wisely spending it, the future attacks from further Mordrum can become even more dangerous, and all of a sudden you'll find you lose the objective. Not only is it difficult to hold locations because of supply issues, but also the way that enemies assault locations is a lot smarter than it traditionally has been in the past. So what's the difference between here and Ore? Well, in Ore there are only two states. A location was either in control of you or in control of the Risen. Here it can be in control of you but also very weak, or it can be in control of you and very strong. But also the way that the enemies attack, Risen would just charge an area, right? And there would be some kind of territory, and as long as one human player was alive in that territory, the Risen couldn't capture it. So it was very easy to cheese out, and it was very difficult for the Risen to ever take something from the players. Well, now Mordrum will establish siege of their own to harass places from far away. They will flank, they will assault multiple points of entry at once, and not just in mindless waves that can instantly be AoE'd down. Very exciting. Now, I do have to point out, though, as a bit of a disclaimer, I am playing this on a stage where there aren't too many of us here, so I have not seen what it's like to be here with a massive Zerg. It could very much be a whitewash, and I'm hoping that it's not. As an individual player, I can only do very minor things, like I can take a location. I could have taken this place earlier, Red Rock Bastion. And I'll hold it for maybe one wave of enemies, and I can defend it the first time. But after that, I cannot defend it the second time. No matter where I've tried it, it's way too difficult for a solo player to do. Or I could then go and try and run a supply caravan. But if I leave to run the supply caravan, then the Mordrum attack the fort while I'm away, and you can see my issue. So, unfortunately, I've not been able to push supply lines very far. But I think with some reasonable speculation, I can tell you exactly where this goes. You'll see up here in the top right, we've got this counter of 0 out of 4 for first level defenses achieved. Now, what this is relating to is if we capture this first location, Red Rock Bastion, that's 1 complete. If we capture this location over here, Indigo Cave, that's location 2. This place over here, Blue Oasis, is location 3. And finally, Amber Sandfall. At that point, it will push the meta to another stage where further war scenarios will start taking place that I haven't seen yet. There's also this Pact Assault Preparations Completed bar, and I believe that's something players can contribute to by handing in various currencies that drop around this map. Anyway, let's push a little bit further in. Here you can see we got one of the other forts. Each fort does come with a vista. Now you can channel at those vistas. There's like skill points around, but there is no formal map completion here, just like with Dry Top. So you don't have to do that. It's just nice to get these vantage points on the various areas. Many of the locations here as well, they're not actually created by the Pact. So the Pact want to own this, but these are ancient ruins we haven't seen before. So that segues me quite nicely. I'm not going to go over there just yet. Let's keep exploring the map. That segues me quite nicely into what this map even is. It's called the SilverWastes. If you overlay this with Guild Wars 1, if you just look at the way the Maguma jungle was structured in Guild Wars 1, back when it was a jungle, you will see that this was once a place called the Silver Wood, a medium to large-sized explorable area in the previous game that was at the time very lush and beautiful. And now it's become the SilverWastes. There was very little lore that I can pick at and talk to you guys about, unfortunately, with the map. But it looks way more beautiful in this game than it ever did in the previous game. Just look at this. It's incredible. We've got a couple of mowers around as well. And as to who left these structures here, we don't know. But there are various interactable objects around. And I'm not talking about like that rich mithril vein. I'm talking about like when you capture locations or look closely, you can find leftovers of some people who hurriedly just ran off. And as I say, I think it's supposed to be the White Mantle, but there is no direct confirmation for that. So we're going back to Red Rock Bastion here. I don't really want to do that. Each location is not like a carbon copy of one another, so they're not all just like generic fort 1, 2, 3, and 4. One of them in particular, Indigo Cave, that should tip you off. It's very different structurally to, say, this fort near us here. You can climb very high. In fact, this is the cave over here, I believe, which we can go and have a look in. You can already see it looks kind of different. It's got a rooftop to it, and I can show you guys one of the cool mechanics to do with that here. So if I wanted to capture this place, I'd need to clear it of Mordrum. And this bar here, this doesn't represent morale. It doesn't mean that there's infinite respawning enemies. There are a set number of Mordrum in this fort right now. And if I want to capture it, I need to kill all of those set Mordrum, okay? So if I'm missing one, I have to find him. He's patrolling around there somewhere. They don't respawn. It's just this many that are here. And that I quite like because it makes it feel a lot more, I don't know, realistic or easily imagined. It doesn't feel like I'm shoveling snow while it's constantly snowing because they're always spawning more and more things. Just as we saw in Ore, right? If you took too long, then Risen would start respawning. It was generally just a pain. When you're in location, when you're in the effects of a Mordrum area, you are under the effects of Venom. This deals damage every single second to you. Not that painful, especially considering I'm an elementalist and that barely hurt me. But, you know, it puts that threat on you. It keeps you in combat. Stops you being able to waypoint away. The lack of waypoints is huge for this map. Now, I do believe, here's one of the new varieties of enemies here, the Terror Griffs. We'll have to kill one of those in a second. I do believe there are ways to purchase waypoints with supply in these locations, but again, it's sort of more end-gamey, late-style stuff to do with the meta that you need large groups of people to be able to achieve. Certainly at the original place, the original camp that the Pact have set up at the entrance, you can work towards getting various services there, such as a bank, such as a trading post. You'll remember one thing about, damn it, how did I go down there? You'll remember one thing about Drytop, and there was no bank, there was no trading post. It was supposed to feel very remote. Well, this area feels very remote as well, but there is something you can do about it, and that is, you know, playing this game where you work with badges that you get dropped. So you'll see the rewards for completing events here in a second once I've done this. In Drytop, it was geodes for their kind of currency there. Here it's going to be badges, and as I say, these badges can be turned in for goods at different vendors or for upgrading things. Another mechanic Drytop had as its kind of global map mechanic was that, well, it had the Zephyrite crystals for one, which are no longer returning on this map, but it also had the idea of the sandstorms. Now, there are no sandstorms here, but what did sandstorms do as a primary focus for the previous map? They allowed you to find buried treasures. There are still buried treasures on this map. It's just now, instead of the sandstorm uncovering them for you, where was that guy? I just saw someone on the ground here. Instead of them being uncovered on the ground for you, they will now, you'll now have to dig for them yourself. There you go, there's a tendril, it's against that wall there. You now have to dig for them yourself. So a reward you can get for completing parts of the new personal story or living world that's coming out. These guys really chunk me down if I'm not careful. Are shovels. So I should have a shovel or two in my backpack at the moment. Here we go. So a SilverWastes shovel. Double click to consume. It's a single use item. It will equip a shovel specially designed for finding lost bandit chests in the SilverWastes. And instead of using lockpicks to open those chests, you now use bandit skeleton keys. And hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that to you guys in a second. I just want to capture this location first. Alright, okay, so it doesn't look like anyone else is down on the ground yet, so we're going to go above the cave here, which is still a part of the event area. Here you can find an embroidered badge. If we press F, it says tattered and faded. This fabric badge has a hallowed pillar and a mantle of argent on gules. It must have once adorned a tunic or glove. Interesting. You can piece all these small things together, and it definitely sounds very white mantle-y. So here we'll see there is new architecture. There's a full new set of different kind of stairways and walls and so forth based on an old ancient kind of civilization built into the rocks. It's really, really kind of cool. Here we'll find some more Mordrum. I believe these two are the last ones for the event to conclude. And once I've killed these, then the Pact waiting in the wings will sweep in and capture the area. And I can show off to you guys a bunch more of the mechanics here. We'll do that, and then I guess we'll just have another little bit of a tour around. We'll show you guys exactly what is in the very west of the map, because that's some of the most exciting stuff. If you're wondering why I'm using this golem, by the way, it's because it's one of the cheapest, easiest ways to get almost scholar-style runes from the stage client, but I'm pretty happy with him, actually. It would be better if I wasn't an alien. He didn't keep knocking stuff out of my AoEs, but whatever. There's one foe left, one single foe. Here's a Vista, which I guess I can show you guys. We'll run around with the UI off a bit more in just a moment. Maybe the Vista will even show us where this Mordrum is. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Nope, doesn't look like it did. Okay, brilliant. Oh, no, there we go. We did. We managed to push the event. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so once you've killed all of the Mordrum in the area, your last task is to destroy the Vine Crawler here. And now my guess is once you've got a big group of players doing stuff, this guy's going to be a lot more difficult to take out. But for now, he's okay. These are what the Mordrum use to siege places, and once we've captured a location, a global map, a message will appear saying Indigo Cave has been taken by the Pact. Now, there is incentive on this map as opposed to with Dry Top, where players were incentivized to just map hop until they found like a tier 6 or tier 7. On this map, you do get a buff called Perseverance. And this says it's gained by assisting Pact forces in the SilverWastes. So as soon as you help them on that map, it will give you a big bonus to your magic find, plus 30%. And you get that bonus magic find specifically when opening the Lost Bandit chests. So this is a way to encourage people to stick with their map and really hopefully push it as far as it can go and really help the Pact efforts in that map instead of just hopping around constantly. By completing events, this is the currency that you get. You're going to get bandit crests. Silky sand remains to be a thing here. I'm guessing it will be through most of Maguma. I've not done too much here, but I've got 52 bandit crests, okay? Now, these bandit crests can be spent
to retrieve our stray supply caravan
at merchants at your locations. Now, currently a supply caravan is already being pushed out from Camp Resolve. You can see he's here. He's on our map, and he would want to be escorted. If we don't escort him, he's going to get knocked out, which is what's going to happen here, because I can't split that many ways. But here, you'll always get an NPC who offers you various things. So you can say, what is it you do here? And she'll say that she overcomes incoming supplies and puts them to good use. We can say, are we doing anything to upgrade our place? Our teams can make several levels of upgrades to our siege weapons and gates, but that varies by location. Once we have the supplies to make an upgrade, it's just a matter of keeping it at repair. So you really want to push supply from the right of the map to the left of the map, and as soon as those supply lines start falling, it has a domino effect on the later areas. How are our supplies doing? She's just telling us that someone's coming. Here we can inspect her wares and see the kind of things we can buy. We can buy armor boxes, we can get skeleton keys, we can get these Mordrum extractors, which is another mechanic on the map, which is where if you kill a Mordrum while under its effect, you can get its organs. Then you can trade its organs at a specific NPC on the map, this crypto botanist over here, who tend to move around the map. There's various things going on, as you can see. Here, the place has fallen under attack. I'm not going to stay to defend it, but here you'll see we're fully upgraded at the moment because it only just flipped. We've got plenty of people alive. The first attack from the Mordrum will always be a fairly easy one to deal with. It's the later ones that can become a lot more difficult. There's a Mordrum Mender there. As you can see, these guys are support minions of Mordrumoth. They get ripped up, by the way, by the Elementalist trait in air that makes you strike them with lightning whenever you interrupt, because you constantly interrupt them by hitting them. If you're ever really struggling against Mordrum, holding the forces back, you'll notice at each location, hidden somewhere, is a signal torch. And in this location, the signal torch is just here. We're going to press F. There's also some rubble on the floor, which I'll talk to you guys about in a second. And by taking the signal torch to a signal fire located elsewhere, and if you drop it accidentally, if you die, you know, it's not going to respawn for a long time. But by doing this... Oh, my mouse was bugging out for a second there. By doing this, you can call in Pact airships to blow the snot out of enemies. So here, I'll use the skill 1. Light the signal fire. If we look to the skies here, you can see in the top right in the event marker, it says air support will be coming in 5 seconds. So keep your eyes out. And these airships will, as far as I believe, as far as I understand, actually fly in from elsewhere on the map. There we are. So they're here, they're circling the area, and if you look over there, the place is getting completely nuked. And this will help you to defend a location for a short period of time before the airships then fly off once again. Unfortunately, you cannot call in the Glory of Tyria, but that's just one example of where you can use airstrike support, at least for tier 1 of the meta. What happens after you own all 4 locations is beyond me. I don't know how much more difficult it gets. But let's look into that and progress forward. Another little thing I'd like to talk about with the defense of forts as well is that rubble you saw me standing here. Now, if the Mordrum break a wall, how do we repair that wall? Do we just spend supply? Well, no, not necessarily. While you are in that wait period, where there are no Mordrum attacking. You can escort supply, or you can try and repair the wall yourself. This is something I'd love to see in World vs. World, or I don't know if it's really applicable, but it's an event that pops where you actually have to gather rubble in the area, building materials, and hand them into NPCs so that they can fortify their location. You're actively taking a role in repairing these locations, and you can already see here the multiple layers of events where players are going to have to split up. It's content designed for whole maps of people, but not all to Zerg in one big ball. One giant Zerg defending one location, everywhere else is going to collapse, and you're not going to do very well. That's something that really excites me about the way that the patch is going to look when it comes out, and I can only imagine right now. So here we're getting a little bit deeper into the map. This is the location of one of the personal story areas. As ever, there's loads of like eggs and stuff. We actually had the shovel I was going to show you guys, didn't we? So I'll equip one of these shovels. You get two abilities. You get sonar, which helps you locate treasure chests, and there's a chance that the shovel will break. Or you can dig. So here, the sonar has revealed this area here for us. The beam of light, the circular trap kind of looking object. We're going to dig. And there we go. We managed to unveil a chest, a lost bandit chest. Now, you don't get to just open the chest immediately. You actually have to spend your lockpicks, which you can get through the badges or as drops and so forth. And here you'll see we get a champ bag just like we used to. Instead of a gilded strongbox, they are coin purses, 20 dragonite ore here, more bandit crest, silky sand, and you'll get unique gear from those as well, just like the dry top chests, which I thought were done really well. You'll get gear and the new stat set stuff, including recipes and so forth. So that's pretty cool. Progressing forward, I'm in combat because my golem's a bit lame. This lake up here was a place in the first game that you could actually travel to. Damn, I can't remember its name anymore though. But apparently we can't go there here. I would have liked another entrance to this map, like between Drytop and the SilverWastes. That would have been really cool, but they never went back and added one, which is a little bit of a shame, but whatever. Here we've got a Drake. Again, this is all an area where one of the personal story steps happens more than anything else. But by winding our way through these back rocks, you can make your way up a very high cliff, which is kind of cool. One thing I haven't really mentioned, audio. The music that was in Drytop is being used here as well, plus several new tracks. The giant packed camp here has got a really awesome kind of war type track you'll hear during one of the story steps, which is freaking awesome. But mostly this place is just a joy to play with the music on. If you guys are playing current new Living World patches and you haven't put your game audio back on yet, I really advise you to try it out because it's one of the most fun things that you can do. It really sort of brings that immersion back into Tyria. Here we go. It's nice to see it's actually day now. Have we been doing this all in night? Or is it just because that's a particularly dark area we just came from? I may end up dying by doing what I'm about to do here, especially since I'm low on health. I shouldn't really run from this Mordrum wolf. I should kill it because they do a lot more damage when attacking from behind, and I'm going to want full health to drop down this cliff in a second. So here we got a Mordrum husk. And over here on the right, you will see a very thorny, viney looking Mordrum area. This is, as far as I can see, the ultimate goal of the meta event. We're trying to push into their base. Now, it strikes me that this is probably going to be some kind of giant boss event there. Maybe on the level of a super boss. You would have thought that they would have mentioned it before the patch came out, though. So I'm talking about, like, the Great Jungle Worm. I'm talking about Gw2. And it would be tied to the entire meta of ultimately getting in there. There are 3 entrances, the north, the middle, and the south. And I'm assuming you need all locations held for a long time, push the meta up really far before you can finally get in there and try and fight this giant enemy that you get a glimpse of during the story, but otherwise I won't say anymore. Let's just drop down then. And this seems like where the map ultimately leads to. And that's most of its environments that I've honestly shown you guys already. If we were to try and walk in there right now, it would just be closed vines that we can't do anything about. So very similar to in Drytop, how there were some events that closed off areas for you and you couldn't get through until you actually managed to kill the Mordrum there. But yeah, so this is the map in general. Very wide, much more open. I know that Drytop was criticized by some as being too linear, and people wanted those kind of big open fieldy type maps. Personally, as a player, I think the way they did Drytop was much better. Not to discredit this map at all, But the use of space in Dry Top was insane. I didn't need the options. I don't care if I've got a giant field here and supposedly these are more options. I really preferred the linear kind of exploration, but this is a more standard kind of map with a very interesting new method of working with meta events in the dynamic event system. And if this scales up as well as it looks like it should scale up, we could be seeing some really cool Zerg-style gameplay taking place the entire way through this fight all the way up to Morgemoth, right? Like, this is supposed to be war, and this starts to feel a little bit like war, right? It's actual battles for territory. It's exploring what dynamic events can really push themselves into being, and hopefully this will just keep going more and more and more maps as we go deeper into the jungle. But I guess time will tell. I'm going to end the video just by running back to the fort. I'm not going to say a word during it, just so you guys can get a real feel for how the map kind of plays out immersion-wise. And that's pretty much it. That's what I know about it so far, guys. I might have missed the odd one minor little thing here or there, but overall, I'm very happy with it. And if it's as good as it's... let's see, the airships in the sky. And, I mean, if it plays as good as it looks like it's going to play, I'll be over the moon.
The last thing our organization needed was additional layers of bureaucracy.
Thanks very much for watching, guys.